What's up, Team Diadem? We're back with a very special Courtside Sessions episode. As you can see, we're not courtside in this one, but we have a special guest, Dr. Guy Harvey, who you may know from the art and marine conservation scene. But I would love, Dr. Harvey, if you could maybe introduce yourself and let people know who aren't as familiar with your work. Give them straight out of your mouth, who is Guy Harvey?
Great, Kevin. Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and hi to everybody on Team Diadem. Yes, you're one of our newest licensees, actually, coming through Alex, who's in charge of licensing and marketing for the Guy Harvey team. I've been at this business now for nearly 40 years. This is coming up on our 40th anniversary, and the brand has done pretty well through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and on a steady course, using licensing as its main source of income and business model. As a marine scientist and a fishery scientist myself, I kind of did a change of course back in the late 80s, going away from academia, from a very successful marine science job at University of the West Indies in Jamaica, where I'm from, to marine wildlife art. And one thing led to another. And after 10 years of getting the business up and running, I went back to academia through the Guy Harvey Research Institute, located at Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, to put back some of the proceeds from the licensing business into marine research work, generating data, publishing papers, and of course, ultimately to effect better conservation. And we're still doing that today. The things that have changed are that my daughter Jessica is now the CEO of the foundation, Guy Harvey Foundation, and Alex, who you just met, he pretty much runs the business, the important parts of it, which are licensing and marketing. So that's a very, very quick overview. Gives me more time to paint, to fish, to enjoy life, play sports. The pickleball sort of arrival came here in Cayman, where we live, about 2 years ago, where they built a really nice 24-court facility. And I've been encouraged to go and play because though I still play a lot of ping pong, and I'm pretty good at it. I beat my son a lot for my age. I've got good reactions. I love ball sports, and I used to play a lot of squash and tennis and badminton, but the body gives out, and so I find pickleball is a good sort of segue for the time being. Except this time of year, Trevor, it gets pretty hot out there, so we limit our playing time. So that's where we are.
Oh, I can imagine it's really warm down there. But something that stood out that was a little bit interesting, I thought, is you mentioned that you played sports. Did you do that growing up? Was that something that was a part of your life at a young age?
Absolutely. We were sent to boarding school. Growing up in Jamaica, sent to boarding school at the age of 8. So we did all the English sports, cricket, hockey, rugby, of course. And Alex, by the way, is a very good rugby player, my son. He plays for the national sevens rugby team, which is pretty good. You have to be extremely fit to do that.
Oh, definitely.
I graduated into, growing up in the Caribbean, everybody learns to swim. And so through university, which I did, I concentrated on swimming and water polo a lot. But one of my flatmates was a very, very good squash player, so I did some of that with him. And I love all team sports. I love sports generally. In fact, while I'm painting and I'm here in my studio in Grand Cayman, I'm watching the 100 cricket going on in England right now, which is a modern version of the game, very entertaining, both women's and men's teams, very international, extremely entertaining, and obviously exciting to watch.
Oh, no.
So I love sports.
Yeah, that's very cool to hear. And I think maybe a lot of people didn't know that about Guy Harvey. And let's talk a little bit about pickleball. How long have you been playing the game? A couple years now?
Not even that. Maybe 6 or 8 months. It's a good cross, as everybody knows, as your audience will know, between table tennis and squash and real tennis. I think you use the same sort of abilities really. Though it's just I think it's an easier game to play. I only play doubles, by the way, and usually it's mixed doubles. We have a very good group here, which is the part I really like about it. It's so sociable, this game. Not only do you form a group of maybe 10, 12, 15, or even 24 players, and you rotate through the week, because we play midweek mostly, not at weekends. And it's you just meet a lot more people. And surprisingly, here in Cayman, and I'm sure you know some of these statistics down here, because Diadem has a presence at the Roost, which is the name of the facility. They reckon they would have maybe 1,000 people sign up for regular games, but they've actually gone past 10,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And so for a small island like this, with only about 80,000 people living here, that's a huge percentage of the population that are very active.
Oh, 100%. And I think the social element of the game that you mentioned is something that people all across the country and even all across the world at this point can kind of relate to, and I think is one of the big draws of pickleball. When you first got into playing the sport, what inspired you to pick up a paddle and hit the courts?
I really miss squash, to be honest with you, and so my left knee is a little dodgy. So rather than have it operated on, I just took up something less demanding on my knees and legs, and I really enjoy the mix. You know, it's just a very good sport. The guy who invented it really did a great job, and where we play, you got a full range of school kids coming in to get lessons. Get a lot of people my age, a lot of older people. And so it's a very good mix of the population who are engaged in this. And of course, Cayman has a very international population. There's about 100 different nationalities living here. So you meet, that's why I say it's so sociable. You meet people from all walks of life.
Is there anybody in particular that you've met in your pickleball journey that stands out, or anything like that?
No, I've yet to go to one of the big competitions. They had one about a month ago. And see, some of the key players. I can see how you can become, very good at this game. I'm sure if I was 30 or 40, I'd make the effort. But I like the exercise. I like the camaraderie, as I said. And I would, even when I passed 60 playing squash, I was considered, very good for my age. And so, but I doubt if that will come along with pickleball at this late stage, because I don't know. I think the one thing, Trevor, that I find is repetitive is that people just smash the ball at each other a lot from very close range across the net, and there's a way around that, and it's called the lob.
Yes, sir.
If you perfect the lob, you can really mess up their game.
No, that's interesting, and kind of leads me to my next question. I was going to ask a little bit about your pickleball game. If there's any particular shots that you go to, or any unique style that you might bring on the court. It sounds like the lob is a good play for you. Yeah,
it's especially backhand cross court. From one side to the other corner, you want to land it in that back square foot of the court, and they don't know whether to hit it on the volley or let it bounce often.
Yes, sir. That's very interesting. And something that I was interested in learning a little bit about, especially now that I know you have a pretty long background in sports. Is there, in pickleball and sport in general, anything that crosses over in the lessons you've learned there into your art or conservation efforts?
Well, I just enjoy, me personally, enjoy dealing, meeting, chatting, being around sporty people. But they're always asking questions about, well, what do you do and how do you do that? And they get into conservation. And so there's a segue from the game into, what you do, basically. People are fascinated.
Yeah, I could imagine, too. And when you're out on the court, are you rocking any of these custom Guy Harvey pickleball paddles?
Well, you got them. I didn't need them. I like the Marlin one and the Mahi Mahi one there. So Those two are my top scorers right now.
Yes, sir. And we have
Yeah.
all three of these Guy Harvey designs. And you said that the Marlin and the Mahi are your two
Yeah.
favorite.
hmm
And
Just because they're flashy, they look good. Yeah.
yeah, no love for the turtle.
Absolutely. Turtles rock here in Cayman, of course. It's our national symbol. And of course, the ladies love turtles. But I love the big fish. So that's why hopefully Alex will get into a few more designs. And because they are very popular, not only the bat, but also the cover that goes with it.
Yes,
So
sir.
there's some pretty bland looking bats out there, I have to say. You know.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. And I think these ones definitely pop off on the court. And then they also, proceeds from these paddle sales go back to the foundation.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about all the great work you guys are doing and
Sure.
what that those dollars go towards?
Absolutely. So 26 years ago, we formed the Guy Harvey Research Institute through Nova Southeast. And I had to have a base from which to operate, to do research work, and also to publish. And so that's why we formed the association. And of course, the one thing that drives the research work is funding. you gotta have a source of constant funding. So the first source we had, of course, under our control is the licensing program. Excuse me. So we took off a percentage of all the licensed items, and of course the apparel side of things is the biggest hitter, so to speak. And as the business grew over the many decades, so we found other sources of funding. For example, in Florida, one of our best sources of funding is through a specialty license plate program.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have that mahi, the same mahi you have there on the paddle, I think on the license plate, and it does really well. We get people sign up and they sign up for 10 years and they pay, I think it's an extra $25, but it's a constant flow of income, and that money goes into our marine science education initiative in the state of Florida. So it couldn't be more appropriate in terms of people saying, well, how can I help the foundation? I say, well, you can buy a specialty license plate. Ooh, that's a great idea. And bingo, you got them for 10 years, giving a small amount of money, but multiplied many times, it's a very effective source. There are other things we do. We obviously go through our education program, which we reach different counties in Florida through their what we call the superintendents of education. And we have a sort of on-the-ground team that goes to educate teachers in all the different counties so they can actually do the education part. And we try and find sponsors for that within the county because it's in their interest to support their own marine science education initiatives. For me, I'm more into the research side, and so I spend my time often on these expeditions. You can't call them trips because they're multidisciplinary. We go to put out tags on sharks or marlins or mahi-mahi or whatever we're working on in a certain area. Let's take Central America, for example. We do a lot of work in Panama, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Mexico, places like that. But when we're putting out tags on sharks, we are also filming the whole process. We're diving with them. We're taking the opportunity to dive with other creatures that we see out there. You might find a predator-prey interaction, bait ball, stuff happening on the logs, for example. I had a really cool experience in Panama last month where I'd seen it before. We were out tagging black marlin, but we were looking for them, of course, and we found this enormous school of Jack Crevalle offshore, swimming with a big group of black-tipped reef sharks, and they were plundering all the bait on the logs. And I finally had the right weather, the right gear. I had a camera with me, jumped in the water and filmed it, and it was just sensational. And it's going to become a big part of our sort of the content which we use on social media and for educating kids about life in the open ocean. And that was just pure luck. So you have to be ready to film. The other part about it, Trevor, is that these expeditions are very inspirational for me in the production of new artwork. And I'm actually working on a big sketch right now. I can show it to you briefly, but it's in pencil. You may be able to see it. But it's very long. There's hundreds of bodies in there. sharks, jacks, all working on these little fish hiding under a log. But it tells a story of life in the open ocean. And of course, we get results from all the tagging, which we use. We publish papers. We've published, I think it's about 180 peer-reviewed papers now through the Guy Harvey Research Institute, which is, nobody else in my genre does that. There's not one single other brand. Many are engaged in ocean conservation, and there's some give back, but none are as invested as we are. And so it's a big part of it. And that's why we've been so successful, I think, for the last 26 years using that formula, and partly why people follow the brand and they buy our merchandise, whether it's art or pickleball paddles or coffee mugs or shirts, because they're supporting a cause, and a very worthwhile cause at that.
That's incredibly interesting, and I think the point you made on social media too is that you guys are putting out a lot of really cool content. And something that I saw, which I'm not going to ask you today, is about some of your most memorable fishing experiences. So if anybody wants to see that, they can go check you out on socials, on your website. But I do have a question that's semi-related, is if hypothetically fish in marine life could play pickleball, what species do you think would put up the biggest fight? Who would you not want to see across the net from you?
An octopus.
Okay.
He'd have 8 paddles, and they're so smart that he would outsmart you on every play.
That's really interesting. I like that. And I think obviously a big part of what you guys do, and what you do in particular, is artwork. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you got into drawing and painting, and was that at a young age? What did that look like for you?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, my latest book, which is called 10,000 Chicken Sandwiches, is all about growing up in Jamaica in the late 50s and 60s with parents who loved the outdoors. My parents were cattle farmers. We grew up on a farm that we've had in our family for over 300 years, since the 1600s. So we have a long history in Jamaica. And growing up in that environment, the outdoor environment, my mom was a very keen bird watcher. She loved horse riding. She was outdoorsy. My dad loved fishing too, of course. They were both very good anglers. And so this book has some of the old black and white photos from the early 60s. And we fished in a dugout canoe, literally made of a tree, with an outboard engine on the back and bamboo outriggers.
Wow.
And then graduated to what you would recognize today as a sport fishing boat. And it was quite a graduation. That was back in 1969. And it really laid the course for me to really get involved with sport fishing, interrupted only by going to boarding school in England, during which time I really did a lot of artwork, partially because I got so homesick, but partially because I had an inherent ability. And not only was it encouraged by my mum, who herself was a very good artist. We have some of her paintings here still. And so by the time I got into, between high school and university, I was doing a lot of art, mostly pen and ink drawing, very detailed stuff, mostly fish portraits. I was considered a fish illustrator. And one of the challenges recently has been, not recently, 30 years ago, was to get away from the illustration type of rendering into different colors, use more color, use a watercolor, which I was definitely afraid of, but it's become my go-to, my favorite medium now. And because the animals I love to fish for, dive with, and paint, Trevor, are big fish, they demand a big canvas. So I moved into big canvases. And like the sketch I just showed you of all the jacks and sharks and everybody, this will probably be done on panels, maybe 4 or 5 foot wide each,
wow.
Just to really get the effect of it. But some of my favorite paintings are really big ones, 15, 18, 20 feet long. And they're just a good investment of my time, because we make prints and we sell prints of the pieces. I have art collectors who collect my original art, who stand in line to buy those big boys. And so I've diversified my ability to create original art into 5 different media, basically. So we started with pen and ink, then we added watercolor, then we do mixed media with a mix of those and acrylics, which is very nice, a lot of experimentation. Then acrylic paints, oil paints, and of course I do a lot of underwater photography and land photography. So all of those media come to work in the production of something like a book, which we were just talking about. So I enjoy doing them all, and now I'm getting more time to paint because my kids have taken the load off, the day-to-day load off my list of things to do. I'm getting into more and more painting, which is fabulous.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and it's really, I think, unique to hear from an artist's perspective, the way that you've kind of leveled up over the years in what you're capable of. And it's similar, I think, to a pickleball player's journey through the sport from their first time playing, and as they acquire more skills, they can perform better on the court.
Sure, and let's go back to that for a second, because I see a lot of these guys. I need to improve my serve. I serve like a girl. I really need to be more powerful, so to speak. No offense to the ladies, but I need to get a harder serve, because some of the tennis players serve, the guys who play pickleball serve very hard, and they also spin it. And so, once you play the guy 3 or 4 times, you've had the ball zing past you. You can make accommodations to that, but I am sure there's a lot more to learn than I've got to. So, and this is where, as you said, it comes into going to watching some people who play a lot or even professionally to learn the tricks.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback. I think that's a really good point, that you can learn a lot through observation. I imagine that's similar to your artistic process, a lot of observation.
Well, not the worst question, but the question I get asked most is, well, how long did it take to do that? And it's like, my mind is ticking over, and we're in the gallery, and there's, as I was telling you, there's 5 different kinds of painting in front of the people looking, and it's like, can't you imagine they all take a different line at a different time? So it's my facetious answer is it took 40 years to do that painting.
Yes, sir.
Which is actually true, because it took me 40 years to get to it. But it's taken me all that time to build the confidence, the knowledge, the expertise to do the execution in the way that I want to do it,
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think another thing that's very popular in the pickleball community is playing with your family. And you've mentioned now a couple times that running your business is now a lot of the burden falls on your kids. What's it like working with family in that regard?
Yeah, I think we're unusual. Jessica she lives in Boca. She lives in Pompano Beach right now, because when she took on the job of CEO of the Guy Harvey Foundation, I advised her that you can't do it from a different place. You have to be in America. So she got her work permit sorted out. She moved up there and is doing a great job, because it's a lot of travel. Alex still does well living. He lives 2 minutes away from us here with his 3 daughters and his lovely wife. He has a lot on his plate, and I don't know how he would cope with it if he had to go and live in America or spend more time in America with all the family commitments that he has right now. But yeah, they do a great job. They're very competent, and I don't have to tell them a thing these days.
Oh, that's great. And that's I imagine it took a little while to get there. And something that you see, you mentioned you play a lot of doubles. You need some that baseline level of trust in your partner. How long did it take for your kids to earn that trust from you once they started really diving in?
Well, they started really diving in from a very early age. I mean, here in Cayman, you can start diving at 10 years old, and they both signed up on their 10th birthday. They became very competent divers. They're very good anglers. They held a bunch of world records when they were younger kids. And so they've been on many different expeditions with us through the years. And so Jessica has a degree in zoology, not marine science, but being a scientist, she took over that job. Alex's degree was in business and marketing, so what better for the business. He's also a pretty good artist himself. So I feel a good. I didn't force them into it either, Trevor. It's not like you got to do this. No way. If you want to do it, this is it's a very gratifying business, and B, the lifestyle is good because you travel a lot, you go to different places, you meet lots of people, give presentations, do all that stuff, and so they both reacted very well and continue to do a superb job.
Speaking of traveling, if you could play pickleball anywhere in the world, anywhere that you've ever been, pretend like the laws of physics don't exist, where would you put a pickleball court if you could?
Somewhere where there's air conditioning.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't really matter. We used to play squash. Well, we have a very good squash club here. We have like 8 courts. It's the biggest, I think, in the Caribbean, and very competitive. We obviously you play a lot faster game, squash is than pickleball, except for maybe singles. But the air conditioning made a big difference because I would probably burn out. In the temperature, it's 100 degrees outside now, plus very very muggy and lots of mosquitoes. So anyway, to be less facetious, let me think. Anywhere where there's a good view, maybe on a mountaintop somewhere. That was the other advantage of squash. You had glass courts on some of these big tournaments, and you could actually set up a glass court anywhere, which is very cool. I don't know, anywhere would do, Trev. I think just somewhere very cool, nice people, with a good crowd. It would be awesome.
I love that. And something else too that I probably should have asked earlier, but we were curious here is when did you know that you made it as an artist? Was it those early days when you were at boarding school, or a little bit later? When did it hit you that I'm a real artist?
No, well, a couple of points to that. I knew as a teenager that I had a special skill that I didn't see in anybody else around me, and it was something that just came like breathing or walking. It was natural. And combined with that is the ability to observe nature or anything around you and represent it meaningfully, as some other artists have called. You're creating a visual equivalence of what you're looking at. And over the course of time, and particularly through one mentor, Kent Ullberg, who's a Swedish wildlife sculptor, who became my mentor and one of my best friends. He said, if you really want to become well-known and accomplished, this is what you need to do. And there was a roadmap to, not in terms of training yourself how to paint, but in terms of where you need to be represented, how you need to be represented, and what subject matter you should try to paint to get the attention of the audience. Not just the wildlife art audience, but mainstream art audience.
I think something that's interesting when you can speak with somebody that's from a more creative world is if you weren't doing art or marine conservation, what do you think you would spend your days doing?
I had my sights set quite firmly on being, a marine scientist, a fisheries scientist. So staying at the University of the West Indies where I trained, or some other place in the Caribbean would have been where I ended up, so to speak. There's a lot, as we're finding out, there's a lot more to learn about the marine environment, especially as we continue to plunder it willy-nilly without proper safeguards. And it's the battle, Trevor, that we have now is to take all our knowledge and get it in front of fishery managers and policymakers, and use that data to have better protection in place while all this exploitation is going on. and it pertains particularly to the big oceanic fishes, the sharks. Coral reefs, of course, are under huge threat around the world. And just to have, guardrails in terms of what is allowed to be taken and eaten and what is not, and the amount of marine protected areas that you have to have. So I'm still doing that, but as my other job, so to speak. And so that's why we continue to do all the research work that we've been doing, and it will never stop. It's never done. So I would have been doing something similar to what I really am doing now had I not had a successful art career.
Interesting. And my last question is, of all of the things that you've accomplished in your 40-year career, is there anything that sticks out as the most memorable or your favorite or anything like that?
Well, to be honest with you, to have the family, as we've discussed, involved in the business, and my wife, Gillian, we've been married for nearly 40 years, along for the ride, so to speak, has been the greatest single thing, I think, to have the family as cohesive as ours has been. That's I'm big on families, and I think that's probably the primary thing. The other, in fishing and diving, we have seen and documented some amazing experiences underwater, and in pioneering a lot of the diving with, for example, the oceanic fish, the big billfishes that you cannot keep in captivity. Many of these other big sharks, you can't keep them in captivity. So to have access to them and tell their life history and capture them on film, some of those have been the most exciting and most rewarding things that I've done. But on the other end of it, going to SeaWorld and meeting a huge classroom of kids and talking about fish and conservation with them is just as gratifying. So, there's lots of things that have happened along the way to make it what it is now. Yeah.
No, that's very cool, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness that you have towards small things, big things, and that it's all together in one and makes a big difference. And then the last thing is, I don't know if this will be able to show on the screen, but imagine an octopus with 8 of these big guys, and you're on the other side of the net.
Like I said, you couldn't beat him. I like that. Wow, that's a big one.
Yes, sir. Well,
the octopus, of course, you see them on the menu from time to time, and I'm a conscientious objector on those. I still eat fish, and a lot of people ask me. I'm a realist. We're not against fishing; we're against overfishing, and so. Anyway, I draw the line at octopus, even though they have a very short lifespan, but they're kind of a very cool, charismatic animal,
Yeah, definitely.
With a sense of humor too. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, Dr. Harvey, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, learn a little bit more about your pickleball experience and tied into everything that you're doing in art and conservation. And like I said at the beginning, we're really happy to be involved with these paddles and the paddle covers that have some of your artwork on it. I think this one's actually Guy Harvey signed from an event we had.
Yeah, they look really good. They really look very good indeed. So, yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm sure we'll be back with you in the years to come to learn a little bit more about if you get that serve dialed in.
Yes, I probably need to go and take a couple of lessons on that, just to bang a ball with a guy who knows what he's doing.
Yes, sir. Well, the next time you're up this way, we have our indoor air-conditioned facility about 15 minutes from our headquarters here in Pompano Beach, so we can get you in there with the pros and get a lesson for you.
Well, that we got to do that. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate it, Dr. Harvey, and this is another episode of Courtside Sessions. As always, big thank you to our production team that does all the work behind the scenes to set this up, to cut it up, and of course, big thank you to Dr. Harvey for taking the time today. And if you want to learn more about what he's doing and check out his artwork and his foundation, you can find him on the internet, on social media. They're doing a lot of really cool things, and it's great to be involved. But stay tuned for more Courtside Sessions episodes. You're coming your way soon.
Kevin, thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate it, and keep up the great work.
Yes, sir.